Do you know what season this is? Alright, first up we have ghost marriage. Imagine this. You're a hopelessly single young man. Actually, you don't even need to imagine, I already know you're single. And you're out walking on an empty street in Taiwan when you spot a bright red envelope strangely. It's just sitting there on the ground if you're greedy or clueless like me, and you pick it up to check. If there's money inside, then congratulations. You just signed an involuntary marriage registration and your spouse-to-be has already stopped breathing years ago. And this is exactly ghost marriage. In their old beliefs, a young person dying before starting a family was a tragedy, not just for them, but for the whole family line. People believed their soul would be lonely and come back to haunt their relatives. Honestly, pressure crosses over from the afterlife too, even dead. You still face pressure to get married. From your family in China or Taiwan, the deceased's family would put a lock of hair or fingernails of the deceased into a red envelope, then leave it by the roadside. And why red? Simply because it's an eye-catching color, not to mention many people mistake it for a lucky money envelope. Whoever is unlucky enough to pick it up is considered fated to become the groom or the ghost bride even, in some cases. If you've already picked it and realize what it is and try to put it back, that doesn't work either, because by then you're no different from a fish that already bit the hook the moment you lift this envelope up. The family will rush out from the bushes and call you their son-in-law. And if you refuse, according to their belief, the spirit will haunt you for life, which psychologically speaking is basically stalking with a permit from the king of hellware. You have to fulfill marital duties with a partner whose heart rate is permanently zero hose. Only hobby is watching you sleep from under the bed. It's kind of funny. Normally, you can't even get a wife, and suddenly you've got a muse chasing you 24/7, always listening to you. Doesn't even talk back, barely costs any rice to feed, and obviously no money spent on makeup, no money on trips or dates either. She's definitely not real. For sure anyway, this custom was abandoned a long time ago now that society is more modern. The custom has become more humane instead of forcing a living person into it. They use a doll the deceased's family will commission a really beautiful doll, which is treated as the wife or husband, then bring it to the temple for a wedding ceremony. So, what's the takeaway? Hair and nothing in life is free, except for two things. First, free shipping that I just paid for on a Shopee order. Second, the free cheese on a mouse trepanned occasionally. Bird droppings from the sky are free too, so when you're out on the street, don't just randomly pick up random stuff. Okay, speaking of Chinawe, can't skip the wedding night in this topic. There's a custom called chamber teasing, a custom dating back thousands of years. The purpose is to ward off evil spirits and help the bride and groom feel less awkward. But in reality, it sometimes turns into a nightmare when friends and relatives flood into the wedding room. They force the bride and groom, mostly the bride, actually to play intimate, exploratory games, teasing each author Evan, bossing them around like commanders, making the couple perform in front of a lot of people. Also, why do people do this? Well, their goal is to drive away evil spirits. People believe that a newlywed's room has a lot of dark energy or evil spirits, like it's prone to being haunted or something. Making a big loud commotion helps drive this bad energy away. I don't know if it actually works, but if I were a ghost or demon and I saw everyone gathered having fun, I'd want to stay too. Not Levy. The second purpose is to break the awkwardness back in the era when parents arranged everything. The bride and groom might not even know each other's faces before the wedding. These games help them get to know each other and get close faster. As for why they need to get close faster, well, I don't know. I wasn't there, but I'm pretty sure both families were there. They'd know, so you could ask them. This custom has been around for a long time, but today, many people still use it as an excuse to cross the linto, the point. Police have to intervene, for example. Guests groping the bride or groomer, forcing them into games they don't actually want to play, of course. As I said, society is more modern and more civilized now, so a lot of people strongly dislike this event, condemning extreme cases very harshly. Like when a bride gets tied to a utility pole and men rope her and laugh about itsum, people would just stand there watching and just keep watching without intervening or showing any objection. And this kind of case gets harshly condemned by the press and young people alike. Marrying gods or Plant 7 animals leaving China. Let's fly over to India. If you were born at an unlucky hour, according to Hindu astrology, you are considered cursed. This mangle placement is considered a husband killer or wife killer. Sign people believe whoever marries you will die. Young, and the solution is actually quite simple. You have to marry a tree eyes. You really have to marry a tree, and yet people say a girl who's already had one marriage at 18 is unbelievable. Well, of course, after the ritual, the tree gets cut down. The curse is believed to transfer into the tree and end their poor tree. Honestly. Just mending its own business then, dragged into a toxic relationship, and then chopped down after completing the ritual, the woman or manus finally is allowed to marry their real spouse innocently. If that tree could talk, it would sue for marriage equality rights. For sure, but at least the tree just takes it quietly, unlike an animal, which would react even in some rural areas like in Ghana. If a child has a minor defect or teeth come in, early villagers believe they're possessed to drive it out. The child has to marry a... What? To drive it out. The child has to marry a dog, yes, and they really do marry the child to a dog instead of taking the kid to a hospital or a dentist, and I bet they never asked the dog if it even wanted this, so... After that, the dog accidentally becomes an unwilling bodyguard for the child later. Once grown up, the child still gets to marry a normal person. Like usual, not the dog anymore, honestly. I think if the dog wanted to object to this marriage, what would it even say, woof, woof? And if it were the tree, I'd rather be a single tree standing alone in the forest than enter a worthless relationship that ends as fast as crossing the street. And if it's a dog, at least it can bark to voice its complaint, unlike some cases where staying silent just lets the conflict escalate. But either way, I wouldn't want to be either of those. Because people must be really desperate to resort to a dog or a treezo. What's the lesson here in a relationship? Don't turn yourself into someone's desperate last resort. We're all worth something. Why keep lowering your own worth? I've got a story like this about a friend of mine. I'll call him Kelly. Okay, in the same class. Obviously, there was a girl who'd just broken up with her boyfriends. She started texting quite a few guys in class, including me, and Kelly had a bad feeling about it. So I shut things down after. Just 3 messages later, her ex even came to school calling her, and at that exact time, she was already flirting with Kelly, so of course Kelly was hooked instantly, didn't miss a beat. They dated for about a month. Then broke up after the breakup. He opened up to me and said that back then. She'd told him she'd wait as long as it took, like, just go sort things out with your ex first, and whenever that's settled, it's settled. I'll always be here waiting for you. Just sort everything out, and then we'll talk again. Something like that. That's probably why she was texting so many guys in class, but none of them fell for it, except she ended up winning over Kelly, and they dated for about a month. I think it was more like just filling some emotional gap or something. Actually, Kelly got cheated on too, because after they broke up, she texted me saying, "Your friend Kelly is way too good, and I'm too bad. I don't deserve him." So she hoped Kelly could find someone more deserving, and asked me to comfort him for her. And you know what? This breakup happened right on the 27th day before Tet, when Kelly was looking forward to Tet, so someone would ask if he had a girlfriend, so he could show off. Instead, he got dumped right then. Dumped Kellythan 2 weeks later. She already had a new boyfriend. Since then, at school, I never saw them look at each other again, so. What's the next lesson? Dating a classmate is pretty risky. Next up, a unique path. Restraint versus feasting in an era where a lot of TikTokers can't even tell the difference between chubby and plain broke at fattening camps in Mauritania. Girls are force-fed to become fatter the more belly fat. A woman hastes more folds on her body the wealthier her husband is considered to be honestly. I respect this logic quite a bit because it's true that only rich people can actually afford to feed such a chubby girl. In fact, this tradition gets pretty extreme, to the point that girls as young as 5 are sent to these fattening camps where the caretakers force them to consume up to 16,000 calories a day, and if the children spit it out, they use physical methods to make them eat again, and like most other customs. Nowadays, of course, human rights and equality are more emphasized, so this custom has declined significantly, but I still think there's one thing that can never go down. The weight of some broke TikTokers who call themselves chubby. The opposite of eating a lot is eating very little, and that's the 72-hour survival test of the Tidong tribe rite. After the wedding instead of a passionate honeymoon. The Tidong people of Indonesia lock the newlywed couple in the house for 3 days and 3 nights, send absolutely no bathroom breaks. Exactly. You heard that right, no bathroom. Trips no number 2, no number 1, and definitely no bathroom. Period. They're given extremely little food and water, just enough to keep them breathing, and all of her relatives take turns. Keeping watchouts. Sito makes sure neither of them sneaks out to use the bathroom. The Tidong people believe if the couple survives these 3 days, their bond will be as strong as steel, and they'll live happily ever after, honey. Why don't you let me go first? Oh, my naive little girl, I've held it in for 3 days already? That's more than enough. I still have to go to work to earn money. Can't you let me go first just this once? Then why don't you let me go? What kind of man are you being, Sostony? I'm starting to regret marrying such a petty husband. I've also held it in for 3 days. It's not just you, so what? You think you're tough enough to hit me, huh? Anyway, who knows if their love bond ended up as strong as steel, or if they lived happily ever after, but I'm pretty worried about the bladder or intestinal issues these people might get so. What's the lesson? Hera, don't starve yourself or overeat. Just eat like a normal person with portions suited to your body, and maybe another lesson is don't put love to the test, though you don't even have a partner to test in the first place. Actually, neither do I, alright. Let's move on to places a bit closer to us, or maybe farther when it comes to marriage, story at stake. A look at this picture. If you think this is a wedding well, you're right, but I think differently. I think they just walked out of a landfill in Scotland here. They blessed the couple in a pretty filthy way. Literally, friends will dump a mixture of rotten, egg-spoiled fish, molasses, and feather sand, whatever the most disgusting thing they can find in the trashanto, the bride and groom. Once they're basically cosplaying as walking trash cans, couple gets tossed onto a truck bed, or cart friends bang gongs, drums, and honk horns loudly while parading them around town or villagey. The purpose of this is so everyone can see them. The more people see and laugh at the couple, the more blessings they receive according to their belief. If you can stand Tugith, or even when the world dumps garbage on your head or the whole town laughs at you, your bond will be extremely strong so later on. Arguments about who does the dishes or pays the utility bill swill just seem like small stuff also. From an ancient spiritual perspective, making the bride and groom ugly and smelliest, a way to distract evil spirits, the demons, would look at them and think, forget it. These two look disgusting, not worth haunting. Usually, this ritual takes place a few days or a week before the actual wedding, after being smeared with garbage the couple spends hours cleaning up, but in return, they get to walk into the ceremony in a pristine white dress and an elegant suit, and this is the moment they truly get recognized. And then on to being tormented by others. Again, let's move to South Korea. There's a custom with the name shown on screen. I couldn't find any international name for this custom. The closest thing I found was falaka, but if you add Korean after it, all that comes up is adult content that recreates this exact custom. If anyone knows the international name for this custom, leave it in the comments so I can look into it basically. This is part of a post-wedding party ritual that usually happens when the groom is about to head to the bridal chamber with the bride. Here's how it works. The groom's close friends, usually still single guys, play the role of judges. They tie the groom's legs together and take off his socks, then bind his feet tightly together next. They lift his feet up high, usually resting them on a chair or hanging them on a stick. Then they use dried fish to lovingly whack the soles of his feet along with some pretty ridiculous or tricky questions. Usually these questions teaseth bride or the groom about married life and the future, like, what's the first thing you'll do on your wedding night? Or why did you decide to marry her? For example, in general, there will be a lot of questions that I don't know. Since I wasn't there, back to this loathing whack with dried fish. If the groom stumbles, answers wrong, or seems weak, the whacks get faster and harder. Koreans believe this custom has 3 purposes. First, boosting vitality. According to traditional Eastern medicine, the soles of the feet have many acupressure points connected to organs and male reproductive parts. This massage with dried fish is believed to stimulate blood circulation, helping the groom perform better and longer on his wedding night. Second, testing his composure. Good husband is one who keeps his composure and wisdom even while being hurt and teased. Third, bonding. It's a way for close friends to give him one last loving whack. Since the groom is leaving bachelor life behind to get married, leaving just the still single guys behind at the same time, It creates a lively atmosphere that erases the awkwardness of the ceremony, and this game has one cheat code. To save the groom, the mother-in-law has to show up she'll bring good food alcohol, or money to bribe the friend, group begging them to spare her beloved son-in-law, and from there he gets to go straight to the finale, meaning the wedding night. I don't know if they wash their feet or not, but if we assume he goes straight into the wedding night, with his feet still smelling of dried fish, that would probably kill the mood a little right. Speaking of which, let me mention a few pretty strange wedding night customs first. We have the wedding night supervisor. Some African tribes believe bride shouldn't enter the wedding room. Alone, she's usually accompanied by an older woman, usually an aunter. Even the matchmaker who arranged the marriageethus person's duty is quite noble. She's there to guide the bride and groom in how to carry out their marital duties on the wedding nighthenestly. I respect this kind of guidance quite a lot because most men want to marry someone completely pure, but purer. Inexperienced people obviously aren't skilled in the bedroom, so this custom both guarantees the bride's purity, since the accompanying auntis there to confirm. The bride is untouched and serves as a witness that the groom conceded even during the matchmaking and courtship. Processe's aunt continuously test the groom to make sure her niece doesn't end up marrying an incompetent or weak man, and if it succeeds, aunt officially becomes a living witness, though. The couple's happiness, however, this custom has completely disappeared. Today, bringing an extra person along on the wedding night would just be pretty weird. Now, finally, let's head to rural old France. There used to be a custom called charivari. If a couple got married without the approval of the community, for example, marrying someone much older or much younger, or remarrying too soon after being widowed, young men in the village would gather outside the wedding night room and imagine this rite as soft, dreamy romantic music playing. The soft bed is set for that fateful, happy moments. Suddenly outside there's a bunch of banging on the door, clanging pots and pans, and people screaming loudly, even singing mocking songs about their happiness. All night long, it absolutely wrecks that romantic moment between the couple, and if the couple wants peace and happiness, they have to step outside and bribe the crowd with money, food, or wine, and that's all the strange marriage customs I found. So you don't have to look it up yourself and still get the idea. If you have anything to add, leave it in the comments below. And now, if you've ever loved someone, don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe. Thanks, hello, and see you all in the clip shown on screen.